You're listening to the Journey podcast. Can mineral balancing help unlock your body's innate healing magic? Stay tuned for today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we delve into the fascinating concept of utilizing mineral balancing to harness the body's innate ability to heal. Our guest, an expert in this approach, shares her insights on how mineral balancing can play a transformative role in restoring balance and promoting wellness. Throughout the episode, we explore the power of mineral balancing and its potential to address chronic health conditions. Our guest provides valuable information on identifying mineral imbalances and deficiencies, and how addressing these imbalances can support the body's natural healing processes. We also delve into some practical strategies for integrating mineral balancing into your life to optimize health and well-being. Eva Vennari is the founder and CEO of the Elevate Institute, a cutting-edge health practitioner firm specializing in empowering driven professionals to take charge of their body and their health. She is the creator of Reveal Optimal Health Intensive, a holistic process that lets you understand exactly what your body needs to heal and rejuvenate so you can continue bringing your talent to the world while feeling great in your body. Let's meet Eva Vennari. Hi, Eva. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because we will be talking about harnessing your magic. What an amazing and interesting topic for holistic healing. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to be here. I'm excited too. I'm so excited that I'm stumbling over my own words already. Here we go.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here today, and I look forward to what you have to share with our listeners today. So, for starters, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your own story?
Sure. I have had an amazing opportunity in life to be exposed to a lot of contrast. And that created a situation that was perfect and primed for adrenal burnout. I was raising two kids by myself. My ex-husband had passed away. I had no support, or let's call it begrudging support. And a lot of times what was available to me, I had to jump through hoops in order to get resources and help. And so that led to chronic illness, an inability to take care of myself in a way that my body could do something with. So I became a hot mess. And I had about several years of chronic illness, let's call it 16 years, just to put a number to it, of chronic fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia, all of those invisible and what the doctors call incurable illnesses. And it took me that 16-year journey to find the work that actually didn't just get rid of my symptoms halfway and made me take care of an endlessly tired body with management and maintenance. It actually helped me get rid of it all. And that is, in a nutshell, my journey. It's been an exciting journey and one that I love to share. So,
yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it does sound challenging, but also like you found a path in there that took you to what you do today. So that is an amazing part of the journey that you've been on. And you talk about chronic illness that you experience. So where does this chronic illness come from, and why should we not blame stress for that? Because most people will say it does come from chronic stress or stress. So how does that work in your opinion?
Yeah, and stress is a very overused word and widely used word, and it's a little bit too broad, but I have a definition for it that will help put a lot of this into perspective. Stress, in my world, is about the relationship of minerals inside the body and how well they meet each other's needs. That's vitality. So when we talk about stress, it's not so much I'm going to say something a little bit crazy. It's not about whether your husband knows about your boyfriend. That's called drama. But this is more about how well your body is responding to what you're putting it through. And that's everything that you're eating, everything that you're thinking, everything that you're feeling, everything that you are processing emotionally. And if you're allowing yourself to do that, so that symptom becomes this communication from the body. It says, hey, I'm not getting what I need. I'm going to make myself painful and aware to you so that you can do something about it. And most of our very first responses are to shut it down. Let's take a pain pill. Let's, whatever it is that we're going after. We need a Red Bull for more energy, or we need to stand in line at Starbucks again. We're going to go do that. But really, it's about that misstep right here, this little moment where we could either ignore it, ignore the symptom, or do something about it. And because we're trained to shut up symptoms, go to the doctor, have our blood drawn, have them go, here's the supplement or the recommended, medicine that you need to take, and probably for the rest of your life. Go live your life and don't think on it anymore. That right there, that's a choice point that we often misstep and stumble over and find ourselves with cumulative, ongoing worsening of issues until finally we can't function. And that's pretty much what happened to me. So it's just a misstep in our ability to give our body what it needs to heal.
That's really interesting. And so I'm curious, if people are experiencing some kind of pain and they're becoming aware of the fact that something's not right, how would they find out, if their minerals are in the proper alignment or if they're functioning properly? How would they find that out?
Well, I make it super easy. Instead of blood, I want you to keep your blood. What I do in mineral balancing is I test a little bit of your hair. And it's not the test that I'm selling. It's the information that I get from it and how to apply it to your body. And it's different for every person. But here's the really fun thing is I never know. Even if your symptoms are similar from person A to person B, they have similar symptoms, their test could come back completely different in those relationship values. And we're looking at, 21 different nutrients and toxic metals. And the question becomes, well, am I creating enough energy to make new good quality cells? Well, we can see cells, the cells that have mitochondria and absorb our hormones and store fat or not, all of those things that the cell's functions are supposed to be doing for us at an optimal level. We don't think of that on a daily basis, but I get to see it. I get to see the result of that. So there's a way to see the exactly what, because that's the perfect question. If you can give your body what it needs so it can heal, how do you know then what it needs? And this gives you ongoing live data to work with to get rid of those toxins that lower the immune system, to then allow your immune system to raise so that it can kill off the viruses you've been exposed to that you have yet to have the energy to kill off. There's all kinds of things that a person could have, and you don't just get them by living in this moment. It's cumulative over your whole life and whatever your mom had, because she made you. So whatever she was exposed to, they pass from mother to child in the womb with all of those imbalances. So we have a lot of work to overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I actually never thought about that because we do talk a lot about stress and how that kind of affects you. But the fact that all of these things are cumulative and maybe even generational, that is fascinating. I love the fact that you can test hair because I know that, especially if you don't live in the States, for example, sending blood can be very, very difficult. So the fact that you can test hair, that is wonderful. And that makes this accessible to many, many people around the world. So that's perfect.
It is true. I've been able to work with people from Peru to Dubai. There you go. Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's great because I found before that, if you try to do blood tests and you send that halfway across the world, there's sort of this time limit on it, on how fresh it has to be until the sample doesn't work. So this kind of cuts out all of those complications. So,
exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. So when you get the tests back, I would imagine that this is kind of very individual depending on each person and how they're experiencing issues, how their body is working. So you would then go about picking out something that's very tailored to your specific client. Is that correct?
That's true. So the mineral supplementation, and let me just pause right there to say, our food is no longer nutrient dense enough to be the only source of nutrients. It is a fact and has been studied for many, many years. Since I was in elementary school, they've been talking about the depletion of the nutrients in our soil. And it's not just here in the States, it is worldwide. It is a problem. So we can no longer just eat food. We must supplement. And then the question becomes with what and how much and what kind. And so this is what makes it very personalized. We give the body, your body, just what it needs and nothing more. I had somebody ask me, Eva, how do I know you're just not selling me a bunch of supplements? Well, you wouldn't get better if I gave you too many supplements that your body couldn't handle. And if you think about it this way, I used to work in construction. This is kind of one of the jobs I had when I was burning out, is working in countertop construction. And we always had to go in to the house with our countertop to install them. Then the painters came in afterwards because, well, if we were installing the countertop, we're going to ruin the paint. So giving the body the wrong nutrients at the wrong time is kind of like messing up the order of how you build a house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And is this something that then we would have to do sort of for the rest of our lives? Or do the needs of what our body is looking for change over time? What have you experienced there?
I've experienced that those who have extreme, they're more than just what's deficient, but the imbalances can be very extreme. We need to get them to a stable place. And we, as me and that person together, we get them to that stable place. And that could take 6 months. It could take a year. It could take 3 years. It took me 3 years to recover from the adrenal burnout. And then I'm still 14 years into this work, healing. So it depends on how deep you want to go and how active you want to be in your journey and what's required. So I've seen people go from unable to eat anything, maybe 10 things. They can have a little bit of lettuce. They can have water for sure. They can have maybe some almonds, limited number of food items when they come to me, and their hair is falling out and their skin is, dry and itchy, and they can't seem to think clearly. And I'm surprised they found me just based on all of that. It's just that they're on that search. I need to find something to fix all of this. And within a month or two, they're telling me how they've now upped the number of foods that they can eat, maybe 30 or 40 by then. They're no longer afraid to go over to a friend's house to have lunch, because typically whatever's put under their nose, they feel terrible about not eating. And if they do, they go into an anaphylactic shock or some sort of, response to what they've eaten. And now it's not an issue, and they can go out and enjoy dinner with the family at a restaurant. And this is something that I get to witness. I get to witness those changes.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. So we're talking a little bit more about the physical side. You're talking about how it could change their dietary habits. And are there also mental and emotional things that you have observed that start healing when people start aligning their bodies with you?
Absolutely. And for me, it was my very first healing. We call it a healing reaction, often heard of. The same is healing crisis. You'll hear that across the healing community. They use those phrases. And for me, I lost my grandmother 7 years prior and could not grieve. And the act of grieving requires energy, requires emotional space, it requires physical energy. I remember standing in her funeral amongst my family and not being able to cry. I just could not get in touch with that feeling. My emotions were very hard, and they were getting me through my survival, right? But once that was addressed 7 years later, I remember I was only 3 weeks into my program and just taking the supplements, drinking water, getting a good night's sleep, trying to change my habits of go, go, go to I must rest between my appointments. And this allowed my body to get into a space of release. And I remember being up at it wasn't that late. It was just going to bed, like 11 o'clock. And I could see the picture of my grandmother's face pop up in my mind's eye. And with it came this sense of that release I was talking about. And the grief fell into but the body down in through the heart, down through the hips, down out through the body, and out it went. And it only took about 5 minutes for it to release. So you can have wonderful emotional responses. Absolutely. Traumas often come out with toxic metals. There are, yes, spiritual signs that equal when you have a spiritual disconnect with your own soul and an inability to get to it, to access it, or to feel like your body is your home because you're in so much pain, then our body's symptoms, whether it's a spiritual problem or a physical nutritional imbalance problem, they can have the same symptoms. So it takes somebody with knowledge to know that full spectrum of where could this problem be to guide you out of that mess, because it is a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're talking here about balancing sort of more physical things in the body, like the nutrition, the minerals, maybe even removing toxic metals. But how do our relationships kind of factor into that? Is there a connection between having toxic relationships and then that transferring to sort of a toxic body?
Oh, yeah. If we put ourselves into dangerous situations, especially when we don't even know that they're dangerous, it leaves us completely vulnerable to, let's just put it into a big old basket of the narcissist type personality that's going to more or less feed off of a person who is kind and considerate and wants to be good and wants to be nice. And there's nothing wrong with that unless you're naive about it. And so when a person is lacking the emotional strength, that internal energy to process and to have proper boundaries and all of those really important tools that often get bypassed when we're tired because we just want to be nice. We want to be ourselves. We want, we end up getting taken advantage of. And so that's been my experience. And it's been an experience with a lot of individuals that have found me, is that they have also had a history of narcissistic relationship. Opponent is the right word, but that's not what I'm trying to say. The relationship tends to be that balance between I'm a person that's good and I'm going to give, right? But the other person is narcissistic and therefore only receiving. It's an energetic balance right there until you can change yourself, and then those people will find their way out. I got myself out of all kinds of toxic relationships over the course of the 14 years I've been doing this work. I now live a very level life. I don't have the drama in my life that I used to have, and it's very nice.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like outside of the physical balancing, we also need to do some work on maybe some of the mental and emotional balancing of things that are going on in our lives if we want to achieve a healthy body and a healthy mind.
Yeah, I would agree. It all matters. And the question is, well, where do you start? And that's why I like the mineral balancing, because it gets your body strong enough and emotionally strong enough so that you can make these processes changeable, malleable, rather than hardline black or white. It is a process and it does take years, but it can be made a lot faster if we have someone to guide us through it.
Yeah. And it's nice if you can sort of see a path, right? So, like you said, a lot of people might not know where to start with any of that. It can be quite overwhelming, as I'm sure it was for you as well as you were going through all of that. So, to understand where there could be a starting point is so valuable. And if people come and talk to you and they describe this and you decide, the mineral balancing would be a good point for them to start, is there anything else that you recommend to them that they can work on outside of the mineral balancing?
Well, the mineral balancing work is very comprehensive. What guides the resources that they might want to add would be their own personal unraveling of the problems. So as we reveal the layers of imbalance in their own metabolism, we'll run into various different things that need to be worked on. And it could mean you go to the dentist and get your amalgam fillings removed. That's mercury fillings, and that causes a lot of problems with things like foggy thinking. And, oh, I just left my keys somewhere. Where did I put them? I can't remember. It was 5 seconds ago, and those kinds of mental problems. It could be that you go to a chiropractor and get your atlas adjusted for the first time ever. And maybe you were born with your head not quite squarely on the top of your spine. And so we solve those things as they come up. And, it's, like I said, different for every single story. It's just knowing the breadth of the alternative medicines and the Western medicines that are required to get a person through on their journey, because you never know what you're going to run into.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know, so when you start working on mineral balancing with your clients, and I imagine some people, because they're already overwhelmed from what's going on in their lives and how they're feeling, is this like a difficult thing to add to your life? Are there many, many supplements they have to take, or is this something manageable that sort of anyone can begin on, even if they are feeling overwhelmed or quite sick and quite tired?
Well, it's a really great question, and it's very comprehensive too. So I think about my own journey, and to answer it in one word, yes, it is easy. It's as easy as following your favorite recipe. You know it by heart. You just put things together, and however you do, and it goes in the oven, and when you're done, it comes out perfect every time, right? It works if you work it. So there's that. But you have to be in a mental and emotional space that is willing to submit yourself to the process and not think that you are somehow in your consciousness in charge of what your body's going to heal first, second, and third, and then argue with your body as it comes up with things that it wants to release and heal. So that's one thing, is getting over this idea that we're in charge of what the body wants to heal, because that's part of it. And then the other is, I remember a time when a woman that I came to for help in my journey, she said, well, you're going to need to take all these supplements. And she gave me a list of like 7 different supplements. And I laughed. I said, I'm not going to take all those supplements. Are you kidding me? And I closed the door on her and I moved on. And it was because I didn't have faith in what she was offering. And so when I talk to people, and for the first time they have someone listen, and that they're spending 10, 15 minutes telling me the innermost intimate secrets about how their body functions for them and what their experience is in their body. And then I explain to them a little bit about how this works and how it would work for them. And they go, well, that makes sense. Right now they have a different level of faith. And this is something for me in that journey. The woman that I asked questions or wanted to get help from, she didn't do that with me. And I noticed that the little bit of faith, that little bit of, well, that makes sense to me. I'm going to try this. I'm going to do that metaphorical, dip my toe in the water with this process and see how it works for me. And they start taking some of the supplements, and then they start seeing the results, and they start feeling better, and they have more energy than they've had before. And when you get to that place, now you're putting faith behind your own motivation. It's not me motivating you, it's you. And that's where that magic comes in that says, all right, I now know and understand that I'm in charge of how my experience is in my body. I have some level of responsibility to it. And this is the way to do that. It's a communication device. And so that motivation and that understanding, it drops the anxiety down. It drops a lot of questions around, do I need to go to this specialist like an endocrinologist to get my hypothyroidism in order, or because I'm going through menopause, do I need to take all these, progesterone creams? No, you don't. You don't have to. There's another way to do it. And when they see that, how comprehensive this can be for a human to go through and rebalance their body, they want to do more. Eva, what else can I do? And they start asking me. And that's the difference.
Wow, it sounds like amazing work that you're doing. And do you want to maybe go over some of the programs and services that you offer so our listeners can get a feel for how they could connect with you if they feel aligned with this episode and they maybe want to try out some mineral balancing with you or work on some of their health challenges?
Sure. Yeah. The Reveal, we've been talking about the mineral balancing work, which I call Reveal. It's the Optimal Health Intensive. And who doesn't want to be optimal? So that's my main program that I started the business with 13 years ago now. Been doing the work for myself for 14, became a practitioner and started doing the work for others a year later. So there's that. Along the way, I discovered that my spiritual abilities for healing were coming online, and I started to add in what's called my restore sessions. So if you feel like you have been hexed or you've been cursed, and I run across them, don't think it's crazy. I run across this. I offer what's called a restore human. So restore programs, they help to, this remote. I don't have to be where you are. You don't have to be in my vicinity. And I do the same thing for homes. If you've ever moved into a house and the house doesn't feel like your own home, that could be a problem. So back to the restore. So I offer that for both homes and for humans. The distinction has a history to it of humans versus people. I'm not going to get into that now. But if you've ever bought a piece of furniture from maybe the antique stores, they often have attachments to them. I'll clear those out too. So that's the restores. I also offer the Essential Love program, which is around creating your own boundaries, finding out who you are in relationship to yourself, to others, and the universe. And then I also have tarot card readings and energy healings, crystal healings, all kinds of things, including Reiki. So they all together collectively create this body of work that I call the Evolve Academy. But any one of those that I mentioned as line items can be entry points to the work, and you can do as much or as little engagement as you like.
Perfect. And Eva also has a TV show called Leading Your Health, which is produced by the Connected Women of Influence. And we will be linking to all of Eva's offerings and her TV show in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on all the ways that you can get in touch with her. If this episode has felt like it's calling to you and you want to work with her, check out the show notes and we will get you connected. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed this journey into harnessing your magic as much as I have. It has been fantastic chatting with you on the podcast today, Eva. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've learned so much in the past half hour, so I'm really hoping our listeners will connect with you and start balancing their bodies. It sounds like fantastic work that you do. Thank you so much and take care. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.